Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Mentium podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. As I already shared with you, this season is Stories of Impact. So each week we will be bringing to you somebody who's really doing just that. Today is no different. My guest is a beautiful sister, originally from Senegal, but who's living in Detroit, Michigan. Her name is Dr. Seydi Sarr. Dr. Sarr is an award-winning social justice advocate, human rights activist, and a visionary leader dedicated to advancing equity, social justice, and systemic change through lived experience and grassroots mobilization. She founded an amazing organization that I want you to hear directly from her. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Sarr is a Senegalese native. She holds degrees from Wayne State University School of Social Work and Marygrove College School of Social Justice. She's also a PhD holder in humanities. All I can tell you is Dr. Sarr is a mother, community organizer, and a mentor to many. She curates a vision of multicultural, multifaceted society built on acknowledgement, understanding, courage, transformation, and service. Through her unwavering dedication, she continues to disrupt oppressive systems, uplift marginalized voices, and drive transformative change at every level. I see that lady at work. I want you to discover it yourself. Without any further ado, Dr. Sarr, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and your roots?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for having me. A little bit about myself. I am the eldest daughter of a family of 13. I have 12 siblings. I grew up in Senegal. My father was in the army. I am mom of a 20-year-old, and I run a nonprofit.
Okay, so I know you have much more to say about that. So let me rephrase the question. Can you share with our viewers your journey from Senegal to Paris and then to the US? And what triggered your love for community? But let's start with the journey first, and then we'll come back to that.
So I graduated from high school in 1995. And when I graduated in Senegal, I went to Orléans in France for college. I went for business administration and management with culture, for langue étrangère appliquée. 2 years in Orléans, then I moved to Paris to do petite et moyenne entreprise, petite et moyenne industry. So I became an administrator for small businesses and small industry. I did 8 years in France. I worked in different spaces, and then I met the father of my daughter in Paris, and I decided to move in the US. So 2003, I'm landing in Detroit, first time in the US ever, and in Detroit, Michigan. And I have been in Detroit, Michigan since then.
So you never moved out of Detroit?
No.
Wow.
I have
Okay.
always been in here.
22 years in Detroit then?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, can you share with us a little bit about that journey? Because being in France for 8 years, speaking French, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the US where, of course, English is the language. So how did you navigate the system to be able to run today a non-profit organization?
One thing that wasn't a problem when I moved in Detroit was language. And that, I'll take it back to my high school years. Because when I was in Dakar, the Lycée d'Amigué, we were the one running the English club. So,
Okay, well, we
yes.
have that in common.
Yeah. So, the language wasn't a barrier because when you go to school in Senegal, you know that 9th grade to 12th grade, you take another language that is not English. So English as a second language is introduced in middle school. So that took care of the language barriers. However, when I come to the US, what was my first frustration was the fact that my degree was not recognized. I came in here, I had already had a couple of years as an experienced worker. And when I came here, I could not find a job that wasn't an entry-level job. So that frustrated me. So I decided to go back to school. So I went back to school in 2006. I went to school in 2006. My first line of study was nursing. Why nursing? Because my daughter was born in 2004 with 5 holes in the heart. She was born with a
Wow.
congenital heart disease. She had AST, ventricle was a hole, atrium had PDA had a hole. And 6 months of age, she had to undergo an open heart surgery.
Only at 6 months.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. She undergo open heart surgery May 3rd. I remember it like yesterday. Before at 4:45, and the doctors were telling me that she's not gonna make it. She's 20, driving me crazy today. So from that experience, I was so touched by the support that we were getting from the nurse. When I decided to go back to school, I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to give back in that manner. I went to nursing school. My last semester before I graduated from nursing school, I dropped out of school. Yes, I did. So when you are in nursing school, after your second semester, they start sending you and placing you in hospitals. My daughter was sickly, so the 2 first semesters and 3 semesters, I was able to keep myself around where we were living. On my 4th rotation, the teacher that was running that refused to give me the opportunity to stay. So I was placed in a hospital that would require for me to drive 45 minutes away from my home. But she also put me at the first shift, 7 a.m. shift, which means I had to be out of my house at 5 a.m. So I had to make the choice. Was I gonna continue or was I gonna take my child? I chose my daughter and I dropped out of nursing.
Absolutely. In a heartbeat. Wow.
Doing that, I had to sit and think, now what next? I remember it was not a difficult choice, because when I went to my teacher and explained my situation, she told me, if you succeed, you are going to make money. With that money. And with that money, you will be able to take care of your daughter. And I was like, it didn't make no sense. And she was like, you are the only one who have to make a sacrifice. Your family also have to make a sacrifice. So that made me pause. I did not want to be in a space where my daughter was barely 4, sacrifice for me. So I told her that wasn't my culture.
Culture.
Yeah. That did not.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
So I quit it. And I finished the semester just to have my associate degree of applied science, but not a nursing
degree. Okay.
After that, I sat for a couple of months and I went to Wayne State University. The week school was registration was closing, I went to see the counselor and the lady looked at me and she was like, why did you do this? You already have applied science. Why did you go for nursing in the same college? She was like, don't you understand that asked me, and you still want to get an associate of nursing. So she showed me that I was moving in the system because the community college only can give you an associate degree. So if you do 2 or 3 degree, it's still associate. So that was the first time somebody sat down and explained to me how the system works. Then she broke it down and showed me that I was using all the money that I could use for my undergraduate. I was using at associate level. So I would not have enough money to cover my schooling to get a bachelor degree. Then she gave me a choice. She was like, you can go for childhood education, social work, or cultural anthropology. Everything would transfer with 2 or 4 credits.
Okay.
And she gave me a week.
She gave you a week to make a decision.
Yes. Because the registration period was coming after a week. I chose to do social work as a major with cultural anthropology as a minor. So I rushed in 4 days to apply to my social work, and I bunched into the office for registration and asked to have a meeting face to face instead of writing an essay and sending it because I was at the wire. And I remember the lady at the registration was just smiling, and she was like, "You are lucky. The director for admission is here today. Let me see if she has space to talk to you." I waited for 4 hours. Then finally, the director of admission called me in her office, and we had a 15 minutes conversation. And she was like, "If you can submit your application by tomorrow, you might be lucky." So I stayed up all night to complete my application and send it in. Then that afternoon, I was the last student being accepted to social work for that year. So I joined my last minute day. But I never regretted it.
That's exactly what I was about to say, because I said, had you continue on the nothing path, that's true that you will impact a lot of people because that's who you are. But boy, look at the difference that you are making right now by being, this is the first time that I truly understand why you do what you do. Your degree is in social work.
Yes.
But then you had your master's in social justice. What did you have your PhD in?
Humanities.
Humanities. When you said earlier that the reason why you became a nurse is because of the birth of your daughter and how appreciative you were of the nurses helping you. Now, is it the reason why you are considering becoming a lawyer because of your current work right now?
Frustration in my current work, definitely. Because I know that if there was more lawyers or even DOJ accredited people that was immigrant themselves, that the community we are serving would definitely have a shot at a better representation.
Okay. We will come back to this section a little later, but I want to dig deeper into your roots. I know you talked to me about being from Senegal, going to parents, but what is it in you that really is keeping you deeply rooted in who you are? Because I have not seen you without this attire. Wherever you go, they can understand that this lady is from Africa.
My mom and my dad.
Can you explain more?
When we grew up in Senegal, my mom and dad forced us to speak our language, even though we were not a village. I did not speak Wolof until I was in 10th grade, growing in Senegal. Serer at the house, French at school.
I think I am.
That was it. My dad allowed us to speak anything but Serer at the house. He was like, we asked where mom and dad are. You are going to be. Every summer, he would divide the house. This summer, the boys go to the village. The girls go to summer school. During the vacances. The next summer, the girls are in the village. The boys go during the vacances. So we alternated.
What an upbringing. So
But
if I hear you correctly, you are fluent, and I mean fluent, in 4 languages. Serer is your native one. Wolof is maybe the major one in Senegal, French, and now English. Do you speak any other language?
I understand Spanish. I picked it up. Organizing with Spanish people. I went to school. I learned German.
You learned German.
Yes.
You were in Germany, right? Were you in Germany too?
I visited,
Okay.
but I learned German in Senegal in high school. When people was choosing a second language, I chose German. Then when I went to college in France, I picked up Japanese.
So it looks like God was preparing you for the work that you were doing right now. Because I bet you meet a lot of people from different nationalities, countries, and what have you.
Yeah.
So can we jump now into the work? Why did you get into community work? I understand one part, which is that's what you have your degree in. But when you are doing it, your heart can be like as big as the world, because I've seen you in your work. Why social justice and community leadership?
My father, when we were young, he used to tell us that if you have a degree, you have knowledge, you have a skill set, you have a diploma, and all of that serve you only. In the sense, go work, you get a salary, then you are useless.
Then you are useless.
So all of that is useless. It's only good if it serves your community.
Can you say that again?
Daddy said, if you have a degree, c'est un diplôme, you have a skill set, un savoir-faire, you have all the knowledge, and you use all of that only for yourself, you are useful. That is only useful when it serves your community. He used to talk, example, it was a time and age where in a lot of villages, you had one person who was the person everybody go to have their letters read. When they was out of the country, husband is out of the country, we send the letter at night. You remember how this woman or this man will go to this person's house, and you would sit and wait. He would read your letter, tell you what it is in here, and respond to the letter, give it to you, and take it to the post office. And that was the most respected man in the village. First of all, they know everybody's story, but they also had the capacity to hold that. Because if they spread what they know, problem can happen.
That is true.
And most of the time, it was maybe the teacher or the institution that was there. But at daytime, they were a teacher in the school. In any other time, that the role that they played, it was a key role in communities. But it was also a service role. And that person was trusted. So anywhere I've been, and I'm not the only one, because my siblings school at different levels, so that you can relate to that. But I always kept that with me. 2004, 2003, I came to this country. 2004, I got married in this country. The same year, I made a mistake that almost got me deported. We got married, and my family offered us a trip to Canada for our honeymoon. When we went to Canada and we spent a week in Canada, we came back. At the airport, there was a conversation that led a secondary check-in on my status. And they told me because I left the US without a travel document, I couldn't came back to the US. We had to negotiate for 2-3 hours at Montreal airport to get me back into the US. Then we discovered that I was supposed effectively to ask for authorization to travel because I did not know that when you marry a US citizen, you're supposed to apply for a citizenship status change, and I didn't. That led me to receive a notice to appear. Went to court, and I was proceedings to be removed. Then I had to dig by myself.
Even when you were married to a US citizen?
Because I did not apply for adjustment status. And I had already traveled the country without. So between 04 and 07, I struggled to figure out what was wrong and how could I fix it. In 2007, I was able to adjust my status. What I learned throughout that time, there was a big question. Where there was a question for me.
Okay.
Because when I was trying to figure out my situation, only people that I had access to here in Detroit was Latino people. I didn't have no non-Latino organization who was telling me how to go, where to go. So I started movement work within the Latino movement for immigrants' rights. In 2007, it was like, nah, we, Black migrants, need something like this. At the time when I did my research, the only African immigrant that I knew in the research world was Amahakasa, who had founded African Community Together. And he was at the very beginning. The other person that I had found in my research was another immigrant who did not have an organization, but was organizing in Columbus, Ohio, called Ibrahim Massoud. He was pushing for Columbus to have an office for African affairs. So I decided that I was going to create the African Bureau for Immigration and Social Affairs because I knew a lot of people around me who also was going through the system and did not really understand it. What was really upsetting is to see that for avoidable mistakes like mine, people was being caught into deportation systems like I did. So I started organizing and created my organization, start going to meetings, start setting up meetings, helping people file their paperwork, helping people find a lawyer, interpreting, and the fil en aiguille, here we are today.
So Abisa, and when I discovered that name, I thought it was bold.
Abisa is the African Bureau.
African Bureau of Immigrant Affairs. When I read that, I thought it was a government organization because they're the one usually saying something. Bureau, yeah, like FBI or something. And that's where I saw boldness in your leadership already, just by looking at the name.
I did not know.
Abisa was born out of not a need, but out of your own experience of being almost deported, even though you were married to an American citizen.
Yeah.
So from that experience, you say, what happened to me, I will not let it happen to anybody else. So I will take in charge. And then you created Abisa. Now, how many people are you serving right now? Because I know it is not just in Detroit. I hear you everywhere. You do work in DC, you do work in New York. I mean, look, we'll get deep into it, but tell me, how many people are you serving right now?
The Detroit office see in average between 45 and 67 people a month. The New York office, if we are in crisis mode, they see 200 and more a month.
And what are the services that you guys are offering?
That's the question that I'm right. So we do case reviews, legal case reviews. Somebody come to the office for immigration issues. We sit down with them and we lay out the process journey, see where they have been, tell them where they need to go, and try to figure out, do they have a way, a path where they are. If they do, and it requires legal representation, then we refer out. If it is something that we can do in-house, we do in-house. We do bail bonding. We picked up bail bonding in 2019. There was a rush at the southern border. People that left Brazil and start crossing the southern border. The Cameroonian in the middle of the war that left Cameroon was stuck at the southern border. Then they start getting arrested when they cross the border and being given bail. At the beginning, we were requesting bail support from most established non-Black immigrant organizations who were doing bail. 2018, 2009, we hit rock bottom when we had a Ghanaian woman that was deported after we requested bail for almost 6 years for her. My friend, who's an organizer from Haiti, I was with me on the phone, and at the middle of the night, we decided that we were going to create our bail bond to start bailing our own people, being Black people. So the Black Immigrant Bail Fund was born like that out of frustration. And we launched several campaigns to raise funds to bail Black migrants from detention. And that 2022, we did 283 migrants that was bailed out. It was
83, Mike. Wow.
Yes, Black migrants.
You insist on the word Black migrant, and I know the way you guys write Black is not with it is not with an A. It is with the V upside down. Can you tell me a little bit about that and why?
A couple of years ago, we were part of a movement called Black Women Worldwide Inc. And within Black Women Worldwide Inc., there was an effort to put everybody Black, melanated, Afro-Latino, Indigenous, Afro-descendant, African diaspora under one umbrella, where what we focus on is how do we celebrate us together. And that movement adopted writing Black because it was the most inclusive. We did not have
because it does like this.
Exactly. So it was the most inclusive way where you put everybody with melanin under one umbrella. So if we talk about inclusion, we needed to be about inclusion. But it's also remind us of our commitment to how we ensure that we continue to work to be unified. So when I talk about
the V upside down represent the umbrella. Wow. I would have never thought of that. I saw the way you write it and I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but I don't understand what is it. So one day I'll get a chance to ask, and here we are.
That's why.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But what else? Because I came to your office in Detroit, and believe me, I was wow. Because you guys think of everything. Even those small bags that you have for toiletries,
Yeah.
and everything is in it, and you kept like giving it to newcomers when they just get here. What else are you giving them? What else you providing?
We talk about when they come to the office for a request for a lawyer, we know that there is more than you need. Hence the toiletries. People that was in detention come in the city, might not have the means, but I don't want them to ask. So if you walk into the office and you have wearing sandals and socks, and you have a t-shirt, and you're in Detroit in the middle of the winter, I know you don't have clothes. I'm not gonna.
You know why I am laughing? Because I was having a conversation today with a gentleman who's certainly about 90 years old, and he shared with me something that was fascinating. And I was wondering, where can I use it in real life, until you said what you just said. The guy told me that he's been driving for 70 years. He just gave up now. But he only had 2 accidents. And I said, wow, how did he do that? And he was like, because when I'm driving, I don't just pay attention to the car in front of me. I also pay attention to the car in front of the car in front of me. So that's what you guys are doing. When somebody comes with the problem, you're not just looking at that problem. You were trying to imagine what is in front of that, or what is behind it. What is he not saying?
It is important that we do that, because it is important that we maintain the dignity of the people coming. And we also understand that the system that we are entrenched in have historically not maintained the dignity of Black people in this country. And if your social system is built on that history, it affects everybody, regardless of the time that we are living in, because that is deeply entrenched into how the society system works. Now, when you know your people, you know where they come. You have an imagination of who they were before they met the system. So it is also our responsibility to humanize them and to maintain that humanity as they going through this process. Because we know that their first encounter with the process was dehumanization at least.
That is true.
So we can't fix it, but we're gonna make sure that when you leave the office, when you leave at least a member, you feel differently about yourself. Nobody gonna tell you that you are intelligent because you want to speak the language. Nobody gonna treat you in a way that or that you are less than. So we ensure that when they walk out of our space, they continue to hold their head high. They are valued. Their dreams are valued. They understand that the journey might be, but that journey don't make them who they are.
Look, I know you said earlier, you talked earlier about your daughter, but let's say that is your biological daughter. But how many daughters do you have?
How many boys do I have?
Okay, how many children do you have in Detroit? Because your house is always filled with boys and girls. I mean, and I was like, this is how you live? And you're like, yes. So how do you feel about all those kids gravitating around you and calling you mom? And some of them are like in their 30s. Yeah.
I love it. So my daughter always makes faces because she was like, oh, you always said you want boys. We have only boys. So when I complain about male energy, she's like, no, you call this face. But I really enjoy it because I understand that with the journey, the space is important. It's a space where they can come in, they can feel at home. They can walk into the house when I am not there. They open the refrigerator. They cook food. I get to walk in there and complain about not picking up behind them. Saying, hey, do the dishes. If you guys gonna go and do it this way, they get to sit and feel like they're at home. What most of the time they don't encounter. When I walked in one day, when I came from Colorado, I remember my car was at the airport. I drove into the house. The house was full of birds. They were in the kitchen. When I walked in, it was a little bit like, I feel like, what happened in my house? And I turned the corner and I see them in the kitchen and they casually say hi to me. I walk upstairs. Hour later, I sit down and they were playing their game on the computer. They were being loud. And they're like, did you eat? I'm like, not yet. They're like, well, we thought you were sleeping. And they continued living their life. And I started smiling. Because I was like, what? I'm a stranger in my own home. But at the same time, I felt good because I know wherever they are, they're like, we're going to play Auntie Sadie's house. We can be loud. We can play video games on 2 a.m. And we are not going to fit in outer space. But when they are 19, 20, and 21, I also know that these are kids. We see them as adults, but I know that they are not adults. And they use space to connect with that youthful part of their. So if I can provide that, I will provide. It's not a big price to pay for the mental health of my community members. It's not a lot.
You know, what I see in there, and I can testify to all of this because I witness it. So you just don't work at your work. You take work at home. Because the same people that you were serving at your office can knock at your door in the middle of the night and they find a safe space in there. So if that is not impact, I don't know what is.
It is impact.
Look, now let's talk about this because I know you do a lot of work. Your main stuff is immigration, but also you help in many other ways. How many people, and you had one recently, just like about a month ago, when people die, we don't wish it, but when people die over there, your organization is mostly in charge of taking the bodies back home. How do you manage to raise that much money to spend it on that all the time?
I raise it on a case by case. I do appeal when we are of the tragedy. That was never something that I ever planned.
That was not part of the deal for you.
Never. Ahma Faye passed away in Guatemala in 2021. He was on his way to the southern border. The person he was traveling with left him at the hotel. On his way, they called me and they said he died. The police came. They took the body. And if nobody claimed the body, they are going to cremate it.
They are going to cremate it.
Yeah. So I called the hotel owner and he put me in contact with the organization who had the body in a safe. And we started negotiating how we were going to send the body home. At some point, I remember I was on my way to go to Guatemala and my team was like, "You crazy, you're not going to Guatemala." So we started raising money. The family was in Senegal, in Tuba, and could not. So I negotiated with INASIF and asked them to give me extra days. They gave me 20 days. Because by that time, they had the body for almost a month. And they were like, if you don't claim this body in 20 days, we are gonna. cremate. So it was a fight to ensure that the remains of Ahmed made it. So we didn't.
And you were here in the US and it happens over there in Guatemala. How did they get your number to call you in the first place?
That has always been the question. But I guess we do a good number of the telephone Arab in our community. People pass your numbers left and right if they believe that you can help them. So that's what happened.
So were you able to get that buddy to Senegal?
Oh yeah. Look at Ahmad. If you look at some of the graphic that we use for the Makanga Fund, the back picture is him. So when we decided to create the fund after he passed away for burial, the back picture on the fund is him. So we did that. Then it happened again. Then it happened again. And anytime it happened, it's a battle. Sometimes I call Muslim mosque and I make her ask, and they're like, we can have half of it. So
One case that I know that look, when I saw the email and I saw your name, I was like, wow, I don't understand what this lady is doing, because we started fundraising on GoFundMe. We were not even able to raise more than 10,000 or 12,000. When you get in the picture, in no time, you were able to raise $20,000 to pay for the transportation of the bodies.
I call folks, I tell stories. There is a lot of things that happen in the network. People need to be asked. And we take our time. I don't know. We sit down at the kitchen and we're like, hey, call this person. We tell the story. They like to call this person. And we start calling people. And it's true. Death and dying are very hard. But the folks who are in the journey, that's all what they have. Their parents, that's all what they have. So when the person passed away, it is important for closure to happen, that the parents are able to honor that death. Whether it is in Guinea, whether it is in Burkina Faso or in Cote d'Ivoire. We had cases in Burkina Faso.
It is not just Senegal for you. It's Africa.
It's African Bureau.
But look, Dr. Seydi, let me ask you this, because I know the tremendous work that you were doing cannot be done without any challenges. So what are the difficulties that you were going through to accomplish the work that you do? Can you share a little bit about those challenges?
Existing as even the organization is a challenge, because funding is one. We always really time. We never have enough funding for anything we do. The community we serve don't even believe that they deserve what they need to get. Even trying to get the community behind the work is a challenge. Because
getting the community behind your work is a challenge, and you are doing this for them.
It is. But when people come to this country and they were hammered that they don't deserve anything good, they don't even believe it's possible. When people come to the office for a question and you tell them, oh, this is doable, they don't believe you. You have to fight them for them to believe that this is doable and there is a path. And if you stick to the path, you will find success.
You see, if you didn't mention this, I would have never imagined it at all. Because for me, when I ask for challenges, I thought you would talk about how you were facing the racist system, dealing with immigration. That's what I thought. And of course, funding. But if you have to fight the own people that you were trying to serve for them to believe that you can do this, it's a different story. isn't it?
Yes, but racism and anti-blackness system is a go. I already know what it is. I don't need to fight it.
So you were already prepared for that, so you know it exists.
I already know that.
Okay.
That is set and agreed upon. So, therefore, or I spend my time dismantling it, or I spend my time creating a strategic pathway to where we need. Example, I had refused a long time ago to apply for certain funding because I knew that the reporting system that is being used is anti-black and it's going to take too much of my time. I don't apply. I don't bother myself. If you don't believe of social justice and equity, I don't bother myself. Because our energy is vital and is critical. So are we going to invest it in things that are going to grow, that we can nurture? Or am I going to invest it on a dead matter? I'm not going to invest my vital energy on something that isn't going to grow. I'm not going to invest in being frustrated. I'm going to invest our vital energy in things that we can nurture, that can grow, that can lead people to a better space. I'm going to invest my vital energy in things that are going to thrive. So we make these choices often. But that's what we call at Abisa our decolonizing practices. We decolonize the way we work.
Decolonizing practices.
Yes. You see our names, you have a person, you have an oil, you have an able human, you have a Jobin, you have a commodore, you don't have a CEO, you don't have a deputy director. Why?
That is something that I think is unique to your organization, because you as a founder, your title could have been founder or CEO, but it is what? Abel's woman.
I'm a helmswoman. I wear the helm. Yes. Then we have an able woman. So at Abisa, we believe that we have to navigate a turmoil at sea. We believe that we are all in a ship that navigating administrative issues in the banks of certain island. So if you are on a boat that is on rocky water, you don't have the time to be CEO. But you also understand that the person, the deckhand person, the deckman, the horseman on the ship are as important as the help person.
That is a powerful lesson of leadership. Oh my goodness. Look, I know people watching this would have to rewind because I don't want to have you repeat this again, but that is a powerful lesson of leadership. Now, one thing that I also realize is, for instance, on your website or on your flyers, there are always these small mottos that you have in different languages. Since Wolof is the one I speak, I can recognize Nit Mbokam.
Yes.
And everybody, being a Wolof or not, or whatever, they all repeat the same thing from different languages. Can you tell me a little bit about the other ones that I couldn't understand?
They say the same thing in that language.
So Nit Mbokam, they say the same thing in.
Yes. Kin Opogum in Serer, Netokambandum in Fula, and so on and so forth. So everybody who works with us comes from a place. Your kin is your wealth.
Yes, I saw that. Your kin is your wealth. Yep.
So Nit Mbokam. So we need to treat our kin as their own wealth, but we also need to believe in it.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I told you we would only do 45 minutes, but what a fascinating story. I could not stop asking these things, because also I want people to know not only who you are, but what a bold organization you are running, African Bureaus of Immigrants Affairs. I was like, what a name. But now, what are the lessons? If you were to share with people, what are the lessons or vision or advice that you would have for people who are in the same field as you?
Stay in your lane.
Say what?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. By that you mean?
When you decide to do something, stay in what you decided to do and enter there.
Let me share this with you. Bob Proctor, he passed away, who is the phenomenal personal development guru, used to say that multitasking is one of the biggest fallacies of our time. And you tell me, stay in your lane. So, in a word, do one thing, be single minded, focus on one thing until you get it done. Stay in your lane.
Stay there.
What a beautiful advice.
Everything gonna find you there. When we started, a lot of people didn't think we were gonna count 10 years. We clocked 10 years along. And it was not funding that made us 10 years. It's because we stayed the course. We believe in what we say. We are building a type of society. And we know that the pyramids were not built in one day.
So by we, you really mean you and your team.
Yes.
Could you talk to me a little bit about that amazing team of yours? Because I met some of them and I was just like flabbergasted on how tight knit they were, but also how well they worked together. The harmony between these young adults were just phenomenal. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Fanta is my very first hire, and she came in through a community event that I was speaking in, and she came to see me and I said, what can I do? And I said, are you sure you want to volunteer? She's like, yes. I said, okay. I see you this day at this time at my house. She showed up at my house. She walked out of the house with an assignment and a project. The day after, she hit the ground running. And that was it. Never turned. Through her schooling, going to school, getting her degree, between school, home, Abisa, that was it. Until we land our very first grant. Before we land our very first operating grant, we used to operate on program grant. The program would be a small grant, 2,000, 5,000, and we will sit down and do the budget and figure out how to run this program, get her stipend. And she's like, bet, let's do this. Hi. Then I had to pull my best friend, my sister from before high school, out of the state to come move in Detroit with me. That's Aja. Aja, we met in high school. Then she was in California. I'm here. I made her do a lot of research work when she was in California because she was close to the border. Yes. I used to come to California. I used to send her to Adelanto. She wasn't an Abisa member at all. She was doing her job. And I'd be like, and are you going to go to this person in Adelanto for them? We have 200 Cameroonian women who speak only French. They need a visit this week. And she would just go to Adelanto. She'd go to the detention center. She'll bring me information. I will connect her with other people when we needed to get somebody picked up or bail paid. So she was my relay because she was close to the border. Then I started crossing the border and I will go to her house with her daughter and take her daughter with me to cross the border to do humanitarian trips. So after a while, I was just like, why don't you just join the family? But that's when you have to move to Detroit. So she moved. She moved to Detroit after so many years. She was like, you know what, just let me come over. because you're pulling me in all these trainings, you're pulling me in all this convention, you're making me speak at all these spaces. At this point, just come on. Yes. Then we have Uyai. Uyai showed up at our office randomly. She came with a friend of her from Nigeria, and she was like, "I'm here. It's had been 6 months. I'm here, and I'm trying to see if there's anything I can do." And I was like, "What did you do in Nigeria before?" She wasn't a research assistant. So we talked, and I said, "We don't have that much money, but we can find stipend. We work only on rent. If you're interested, you're welcome to come join us." And I remember when she came, she introduced herself as Yvonne or something like that. So me and Aja are looking at her. I mean, like, "You're Nigerian. What's your Nigerian name?" She stopped and looked at us like, "What's your Nigerian name?" She said, "Uyai." We like, "Okay, we're gonna call you Uyai. Whatever that name is, we're not calling you that name." Sana is not with us no more. He was volunteering for our youth programming. From our youth program, he became a junior community organizer, and he spent 3 years with us. Today, he works for the Detroit City at the Office of Immigrant Affairs, and we had to fire him so he got that job.
Jibril is the one running the office in New York, right?
Yes. Jibril, Alib, and Seydi in New York on the field. We were doing field work in New York, and they walked into volunteering to help us set up 2 clinics. And we were like, "What you guys are doing?" We realized that they were themselves part of the wave that we were trying to help. But they had knowledge, they had worked on their country origin before, and they were already helping with their. So we sat down after the second day of the thing and we were like, "So what are we doing?" And they were like, "Whatever you want us to do, because we need help." So we became their backing structure because they were already doing the work and they just didn't know where to get the resources. And you were like matchmaking in heaven. And their first year, they served 4,250 people in New York. Everybody at the team, somewhere, somehow, had skin in the game. And we also accepted that we were going to do this as a family first, a team second. So
That's exactly what I noticed in there. I know on my visit there was a brand new hire, somebody who just started, but she was also doing phenomenal. Jibril, when I saw him at your house, I thought he was your son because he just owned the place, like he was doing.
And he refused to be introduced as the New York coordinator. He'd be like, "No, stop saying that. I happen to be the New York coordinator."
He happened to be in New York, but his heart is in Detroit.
Yes.
Wow.
So we
Look, I had in mind to ask you about the programs that you run because it is not just about immigration. I've seen the work. You've trained young people to go to college. You've done a lot of other work, programs that you showed me, and I was like, wow, this should be extended to all African or just Black communities in the nation. So, in maybe just 2 minutes, because we're already going over time, can you share with me 1 or 2 programs? Springboard to Excellence.
It's a young girl, Black girl mentoring program. We have cohorts. You work in the cohort at 8th grade, and we work with you until you graduate and go to college in 12th grade. We meet every other weekend. We do community work, and we do in-house support. Everything and anything. But we also ensure that you get your community hours. You're gonna get leadership. You're gonna do project work. But we're also gonna talk about mental health issues. We're gonna talk about anxiety, cultural issues. We're gonna talk about how do you pass the SAT. We're gonna talk about how do you create a budget. We're gonna help you apply for college.
Financial literacy already.
Yes. So I think it's a space that is great because it's allow us to sow a seed in a whole nother space and to help nurture great minds.
Dr. Seydi,
Yes.
that was an awesome. I don't even know how to qualify this, but it was so wonderful to have you on this show, because as I believed, your story is worth telling, because a lot of people can learn a thing or two and impact the world with it. But my last question would, if you had 1 extra hour during the day, what would you use it for?
Read a book.
Do you know that you put yourself in trouble by just saying that to me? You know that, right?
Write a book. I have been wanting to write for the longest.
Well, look, I will hold you to that.
Yes.
I am the one who will hold you accountable to that book. Because look, this is what I believe. There is a book in each one of us. But for some, they do not have the right to keep it to themselves. Do you know the reason why they say the graveyard is the richest place on earth? Because how many books are there right now unwritten? How many songs unsung? Like a lot of things. One thing that I know is that the only way you become a generational failure is by leaving this world with everything that you know. I mean, look, leadership has no gender. And what I learned today from you as a leader is something that a lot of people need to learn. There is no title in the organization. There is no, like, this is the CEO, this is the founder. When I find you in there with people, it's just like a regular lady. And this lady is a doctor with a PhD trying to get another PhD to become a lawyer. And I'm like, stop it. You don't need a law degree to do what you do. You are just enough as you are. Powerful, beautiful, outgoing. And I said, when we talk about impact, when we need to look at impact in the dictionary, we need to look at your name too, because they might be right there. So again, thank you so much for joining me for this 1 hour show. I know the Mentium people will love this, and they might even come to Detroit. Better yet, invite you to speak on the platform. Get ready for that.
Thank you so much. This was so awesome. Thank you so much. I was blessed. I enjoyed it.
Well, to everybody, thank you so much for spending your precious time with us. I truly appreciate when you tune in every Sunday to just discover stories of impact. This week was just phenomenal. So thank you, and thank you. And as always, as I end, my name is Majamar, and this is Mentium. Peace.